On the eve of his execution, a man made one final request, not for a meal, not for freedom, but to see the only soul who had never abandoned him, his dog. Guards thought it would be routine, but what happened in that prison cell shocked everyone. Forever, the prison was silent, but not with peace, rather with the heavy weight of inevitability. Concrete walls pressed in like a tomb, and the echo of footsteps in the corridors carried a sense of finality. Every guard knew what tomorrow meant. One life would end as the clock struck midnight. In a small cell at the farthest end, a man sat with chains on his wrists. His face was hardened by years of struggle, yet his eyes betrayed something deeper: sorrow, loss, and a longing that no wall could contain. He had counted down the days, now the hours, and soon only minutes would remain. The air was thick with tension. Outside the barred window, the night was cold and endless. Inside, the condemned man's breaths came slow, heavy, almost measured. He was not afraid of death anymore. What weighed on him now was something else entirely, something left unsaid, unfinished. When the warden entered the cell, the guards expected the usual: demands for a final meal, a cigarette, maybe a prayer. But the man lifted his head, eyes steady, and spoke with a quiet firmness. "I don't want food. I don't want anything fancy. I just want to see my dog." The words hung in the air, startling everyone. One guard chuckled nervously, shaking his head. "A dog? That's it." Another frowned, as if struggling to understand. Yet the warden's face softened. In decades of overseeing executions, he had heard strange requests, but none that cut so deeply into the heart of loyalty and love. The man continued, his voice trembling only slightly. "He's the only one who never left me. If I'm going to die, let me say goodbye to him." Silence fell over the cell. Even the guards who mocked him moments earlier lowered their eyes. For the first time, the condemned man's wish made them question the weight of final hours. The next morning, the request echoed through the prison halls. Some guards dismissed it as foolish, others argued it broke protocol. Yet, after heated discussion, the warden gave his reluctant nod. "Bring the dog," he ordered. "If it's his last wish, we grant it. But no risks, maximum security." Word spread quickly, and by afternoon, the prison yard buzzed with anticipation. Officers lined the corridor leading to the visitation room, their hands resting uneasily on their holsters. Chains rattled as the condemned man was escorted out, his eyes searching for the only companion he still cared about. Then the doors opened, and paws clicked against the concrete floor. A German shepherd, strong yet weary, entered under the grip of two handlers. His ears twitched, his nose lifted, and then his eyes locked forward. The moment stretched in silence. The dog's body tensed, tail quivering, as though recognizing a heartbeat that matched his own. Every guard leaned forward. Something extraordinary was about to happen. The handlers barely had time to react. The German shepherd lunged forward, pulling against the leash with a desperate strength, claws scraping across the concrete floor. Chains rattled, guards stiffened, but no one moved fast enough to stop it. With a cry that broke through years of silence, the dog tore free. He bounded across the room and leapt into the man's lap, knocking him back against the chair. The condemned prisoner, who had faced death without flinching, crumbled instantly. His arms wrapped around the dog's neck, his sobs echoing off the prison walls. The shepherd whined, licking his face, his tail thudding like a drumbeat of joy. The entire room froze. Hardened guards, men who had seen it all, stood stunned. Some lowered their eyes, others clenched their jaws, struggling to mask the emotion rising inside them. For a moment, the bars, the chains, and the looming shadow of execution disappeared. All that remained was a man and his dog. Two souls reunited against impossible odds. As the man buried his face into the shepherd's fur, memories rushed back like a tide breaking through walls. He remembered nights on the streets, when the dog was just a stray pup shivering in a box. He had fed him scraps from his own hand, whispering promises that they would survive together. Through every hardship, the dog had stayed. When hunger gnawed, when nights turned violent, when the world turned its back, those loyal eyes never left him. The bond had become more than companionship, it was family. To the man, the dog wasn't just a pet. He was proof that love could exist even in broken places. Now, In the cold sterility of the prison, that same loyalty warmed him. The shepherd nudged his hand, pressing close, as if reminding him that nothing, not bars, not chains, not even death, could break what they shared. Tears blurred the man's vision. For the first time in years, he felt human again. At first, the shepherd simply pressed against his master, tail thudding softly. But then, something shifted. The dog stiffened, his ears pricking, nose twitching as if catching a scent no one else noticed. A low growl rumbled in his chest, not directed at the man, but at the guards surrounding them. The room tensed. Officers instinctively reached for their belts, unsure whether to intervene. The man, still chained, stroked the dog's head. "Easy, boy," he whispered, though his voice carried unease. The shepherd ignored the command, circling once, then planting himself firmly between his master and the guards. His eyes burned with intensity, his body rigid, protective. The warden frowned. "What's he doing?" he muttered. The handlers exchanged uneasy glances. Never before had this dog behaved like this, not even during training. The silence grew heavier, broken only by the shepherd's growl. Everyone in the room felt it. The dog knew something they didn't. And whatever it was about to change everything. The shepherd's growl deepened, his gaze locked on one particular guard near the back of the room. The man shifted uncomfortably, under the weight of those sharp eyes. "Control that animal," he barked, but his voice cracked, betraying his nerves. The dog lunged forward, teeth bared, straining against the handler's grip. The condemned prisoner froze. He knew that reaction. It was the same one he had seen years ago when the shepherd had exposed danger on the streets. His heart raced. "He knows you," he whispered, staring at the guard. Murmurs rippled through the room as suspicion grew. The warden narrowed his eyes. "Search him," he ordered. At first, the guard protested, but within moments, officers restrained him. Hidden beneath his uniform, they found a small packet, evidence from the very case that had condemned the prisoner. Gasps filled the chamber. The truth was undeniable. The dog hadn't just wanted a reunion. He had uncovered betrayal. The prisoner's chains suddenly felt lighter. For the first time, hope flickered inside those walls. The shepherd had done what no lawyer ever could. He had revealed the truth. The room erupted in chaos. Guards shouted, the warden barked orders, and the corrupt officer was dragged away, his protests drowned by the evidence pulled from his uniform. But through the noise, all eyes returned to the prisoner and the dog who had just changed everything. The man sat frozen, tears slipping down his face. For years, he had lived under the shadow of guilt, branded a criminal for a crime he swore he hadn't committed. And now, in the final hours before death, his loyal companion had proven his innocence. The shepherd pressed against him, tail wagging. Slowly, as if to say, "I told you I'd never leave you." The warden cleared his throat, his voice heavy. "The execution is suspended until further review." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The condemned man buried his face into the shepherd's fur, sobbing openly as hardened guards turned away, unable to hide their emotion. That night, the story spread beyond the prison walls. Headlines didn't speak of an execution, they spoke of a dog's loyalty, a man's redemption, and a reunion that had rewritten destiny itself. Weeks later, the prison gates opened, not to take a life, but to return one. The man, once condemned, walked free into the sunlight, chains removed, shoulders trembling under the weight of freedom he had nearly lost forever. Beside him trotted the shepherd, head high, tail swaying proudly, as if he too knew they had conquered the impossible. Crowds gathered outside, reporters shouting questions, but the man barely noticed. His hand rested on the dog's back, grounding him in a world that suddenly felt real again. For years, the shepherd had been his only family, his silent witness in darkness. Now, he was also his savior. Later, in a quiet field far from the noise, the man knelt before his dog. "You didn't just save my life," he whispered. "You gave it back." The shepherd barked once, a sound that echoed like a promise. Together, they walked toward a horizon that no longer looked like an ending, but a beginning forged in loyalty, love, and unbreakable truth.